Hello, welcome to a deep dive into the Vendor Addon for World of Warcraft. This video will be broken down into multiple sections, so feel free to jump around to whatever section interests you. Vendor is a powerful tool to help you manage inventory rapidly, to get rid of junk, or keep your bags clean with minimal interaction required from you. It's sort of like weak auras for your bags. The idea behind Vendor is a rules-based evaluation of the items in your inventory and making a determination on whether those items should be kept, vendored, or destroyed. That information is then integrated with the merchant and your UI. The most important thing to know about Vendor is that it is an add-on that can automate the vendoring and destruction of items in your inventory. You must keep that in mind and be careful when enabling it or its rules and features. While it can be a tremendously valuable tool, it can also bring disaster if used recklessly. This video will cover important information on how to use this add-on safely and get the great value it provides. Let's get started with an overview. Entry points into the add-on are from a libdatabroker plugin, which has a default consumer as a minimap icon. It also works with any other libdatabroker consumer, such as Titan panel. You can go into Titan General and then Vendor once the add-on is installed. This also works for LVUI and other consumers of libdatabroker. You can also access Vendor using a command line /vendor or just clicking any of the libdata plugins. Vendor does not do any evaluation while you're in combat, so you don't need to worry about this add-on affecting your performance in raids, dungeons, or PvP. If you loot while in combat, it will do its evaluations a few seconds after you leave combat. If you try to vendor while in combat, however, it will do evaluations necessary to correctly support that vendoring operation. We've gone through extensive design and iterations to make the vendor scanning and caching of information efficient and non-intrusive to your gameplay, while still doing the evaluations when they are required to make a correct decision. Let's get into the meat of how it works. When the inventory is scanned, each item is analyzed to determine a set of properties about the item. For example, you can view the properties. This item, there's many properties we check out. We have type, subtype, usable, equipment, binding, whether it's a transmog, if it's a pet, all that sort of stuff. And there's more properties that appear depending on the type of the item. After an item's properties are cached, it's evaluated against a series of rules and lists to determine whether the item is to be kept, sold, or destroyed. We have a very specific and short-circuited logic here. First, keep rules are run, and then keep lists are checked. If the item is a match for any keep rule, the evaluation stops there, and the item is marked as a keep item. After the keep rules, we run the sell rules, and the lists for sell are also checked. And if the item is a match for any sell rule, the evaluation again stops there, and the item is marked as a sell. And finally, after those two, we check the same thing for the destroy rules. Destroy will be covered in detail in a bit later. Destroy has a lot of caveats to it. But functionally, sell and destroy are pretty similar. Once the item has been classified as keep, sell, or destroy, and any item that evaluates to none of those is implicitly kept. Once it's been classified, we cache the result, and it's available for presentation in the UI, such as hovering over the icon. We can see all of the items that Vendor has classified as sell, which by default is just the junk items. The Vendor minimap icon has this information. Also in the merchant, if you have the merchant button on, you can also see merchant information, such as the sell and the destroy lists, which will appear when you mouse over the button. When you go to a merchant, Vendor will attempt to sell anything that it has evaluated to sell. This is enabled by default. You can go into the selling options and turn off this behavior if you do not want that. But what will happen is we will go through and vendor everything that you have marked for selling. That's the simplest use of vendor. If you just use the default behavior, you'll just basically get a junk seller that is automatic. We also do repair, auto repair, and using the guild bank for your convenience. It's noted that we also have a sell limit of 12, and the reason for that is because 12 is the size of the buyback window. So if you walk up to the vendor and it auto sells and you sell 12 items, if it made a mistake, you can buy back any of those items. If you don't want to limit the number to sell, you just uncheck that box and it will keep going until there's nothing to sell. Sell 50, 60 items if it has to. But by default, we put the number to 12 as a safety feature to prevent you from accidentally selling something you didn't want to sell. Once you're comfortable with the add-on, you can comfortably remove this setting and use it without worry. Many settings for vendor are account-wide and listed in the setting for account-wide. If it's not stated as explicitly account-wide, it is based on the profile of the character. Profiles, there's a default profile you can use. You can create many if you want to have some settings for like a character that does a lot of transmogs farming, for example, and you have your bag's full of a bunch of stuff you want to get rid of versus your main character or a leveling character or something like that. If you don't want to mess with any profiles at all, you don't have to. You can leave it on the default and not ever worry about it. But once you get more comfortable with the add-on and you want to have some different settings, configurations for different characters or for activities, profiles can be a very useful feature for that. And finally, we have keybinds for vendor. If you go into the options, key bindings, and then scroll way to the bottom, we have the vendor add-on keybinds. You can toggle adding items to the sell list, the keep list, the destroy list. This will toggle them on or off. You can also add a keybind to destroy an item. I'll cover that more later. And to auto sell at the merchant if you don't want to have the automatic selling happen. You can bind it to a keybind instead of clicking the button. And then you can also bind a key to open the rules dialog for the add-on. Okay, so now you know a bit about vendor and how it works. You want to get started. The first thing you should do when setting up vendor, the absolute first thing, is set up keep lists. Keep lists are items that you can add that will never be sold. Like, I want to never sell a Jeeves. That's a good thing to put in your keep list. Or a cloak of coordination, or a gnomish army knife, or something like that. You can just drag and drop the items onto the list to add it, and you can just click on the item and click the X to remove it. You can do the same thing for sell and destroy lists, but the first focus should be on keep lists. You can also create a new custom list, which I recommend. I call mine Precious, but you can create a custom list by just clicking that button, typing in important stuff, or whatever you want to name this. You can save this list, and then you can add items to this list. The difference between this list, I call mine Precious. I have all the things I never want to sell. You know, Wrap Over Unity, Cloak of Coordination, Augment Runes, Flight Whistles, Gateway Control Shards, things that I just never want to ever get rid of. But the reason to kind of put these in your own custom list is because this list is account-wide, so every character will have access to this list, while these keep rules or keep list, sell list, and destroy list are based on the profile and can be different if you change profiles. So I highly recommend creating a custom list, putting all the stuff you care about in there, and then I'll show you in a minute how to make this into a specialized keep rule. But the simplest way to do this, if you don't want to mess with profiles or any lists or anything like that, is just add the things that you care about into a keep list. Don't mess with profiles, and you're good to go. You can mouse over the item. You can now see that the ultimate gnomish army knife says keep items in keep list. At the bottom, there's a tooltip for vendor, another thing you can put in the settings, which will tell you which rule and what the determination of vendor is for a particular item. In the case of Jeeves and the Gnomish Army Knife, they now say keep. Same thing with the Gateway Control Shard. Keep items in your keep list. The sell list and destroy list works the exact same way, just for selling and destroying. So now that you've set up your keep list, ready to enable the most powerful feature of Vendor, the rules. Rules like lists are divided into 3 types: keep, sell, and destroy, and that corresponds to the action you want the vendor to take with these items that match the rule. A simple rule is a keep rule for legendary items. This is one of the default rules we have. I'll show you later how to create your own. But for now, let's just look at an existing rule. If the rule is turned on, it has a check mark. If it's not turned on, there's no check mark. You can right-click a rule. You can hide it if you want. You can disable the rule. You can copy the rule to make a new one. A useful idea, however, is to view the rules so you can see pre-existing rules and what the script is for the rule. So this is the rule dialog. This is a built-in rule, so you can't change or edit it. However, you can use it as an example to see how to write a rule, a very simple rule in this case, which is anything with a quality higher than 5 or equal to 5 will match and then be matched by this rule. And on the right, you have help that tells you some of the different properties you can use to make rules and functions. You also have matches. This will show what this rule is currently matching in your inventory. And right now, the only thing I have that matches it is the Heart of Azeroth, which is a artifact of artifact quality. You also have a tab for item info. This is useful when you're making a rule to get information about an item. For example, you can drag an item to your inventory, drag it on this item bar, and all of the properties of the item will be shown right in here. And in the case of like quality 5, you see quality is 4, therefore this thing is not showing up. You drag the Heart of Azeroth on here, you see quality is 6, which is greater than or equal to 5, therefore we show this rule matches the Heart of Azeroth. You can do this for any rule, like uncollected appearances. If it's an unknown appearance, it'll match this rule. I don't have any in this currently matching. Potential upgrades is another interesting one. It's a more complicated rule. You can get pretty complicated in your scripts. And now we're going to go create a rule for keeping the precious items. I think I already have this rule, but I'll go ahead and go through the process of making a new one. So we'll name the rule precious items. You have to put a description, could be anything, precious. And then you have a script. And one of the script options is in list. So you can do is in list and then the name of the list. Important stuff, I think is what I called it. So anything that you put in the list that is in that named list, important stuff, will show up here. We can go back to the list. Important stuff. I have the Goblin Glider Kit. It's matching the Goblin Glider Kit. So this is how you can create a keep rule for your important items and then enable that rule. So you have keep rule. You can turn into a sell rule. Don't want to do that. Default is keep rule. Parameters is something I'll talk about later. If you've created a valid rule, the rule will show up okay, that it has passed the validation. If you put in bad input, it will have a validation error and give you some information about how to resolve that. Once you have a correct rule, you can save it, and then you can go into the rules, find your new rule that you've created, click it, and now precious items is turned on. If I mouse over the Goblin Glider Kit, it now says keep precious items. So it matched it to the rule, and Vendor has recognized that that item is to be kept now. That is the basics of creating a rule, and what I recommend the first rule you create is to keep the important stuff to you. Okay, so let's look at some sell rules. The default ones are poor items, low-level food, um, known toys are another one. The common ones people will use, which I recommend, are like epic gear, and then you can put in an item level for it. This uses a parameter. We can view the rule and show it's not an equipment set, it's equipment, it's soul-bound, its quality is epic, it's not unsellable, and the level is below the item level parameter here. Again, this is a built-in rule. The item level is currently set to 502, and these are all the items that match item level 502. And I've been farming on this character some old content, and so I have a large amount of items that this rule would get rid of. If you're turning on these rules, highly recommend you make sure that you have your keep rule specified first for anything that's important to you, so you don't lose that stuff. And then once you've turned on the sell rules, you can see the magic of Vendor, where I opened up the vendor, it started to sell, it sold 12 items down here in the chat. You can see what it did. It reached its sell limit of 12. It still has 42 more items to sell. So you can click the button to sell another batch of 12. If it sold something you didn't want, you can go to the buyback window to get it back. And if you're feeling pretty comfortable with the add-on, you can just turn off the sell limit. And now it will sell the remaining 30 items. You can see my whole bags are very cleared out now. I didn't really have to think about it too much. Didn't remove any of the things I didn't want it to. Didn't remove any my upgraded item. And that is the fundamentals of how you can use Vendor. You can also create new rules, and I'll give an example of a destroy rule that I like to create. So in the process of farming old content, I come across things like pets that I cannot sell, and I've already collected all of them, and I mean, I could go and cage them and try to sell them on the auction house, but I honestly just don't care enough. I just want them out of my inventory. So here we can demonstrate the destroy rules and how destroy can work, and also create a new rule. So we'll start by creating a new rule here. We'll call this collected pets. We'll say destroys collected pets. And we have to put in a script here for the rule. And to help us do that, we want to first take the item, drag it onto the item box so we can see the properties. We can see that this item is a pet. Its properties up here is pet, and we can see is pet collectible false. If you've reached the max limit of the pet count, then this will be false. So I can make a really easy rule for this: is pet and not is pet collectible. This uses basic Lua expressions with a custom Lua engine. You can't just call any Lua function here. This rule environment is very constrained to just the functions we decided to export. It includes math functions, your basic Boolean expressions, not and parentheses and everything work, and properties that we've exported as variables that are based on the item. So if the item is a pet and is not collectible, we have a valid rule. Let's check the matches. It matches our Cinderweb egg as we expected it to, and so we can save this rule. But by default, as a safety precaution, new rules you create are defaulted to keep. We want this one to be a destroy rule. So I'll save that as a destroy rule, and now we can see destroy collected pets. Destroys collected pets. I can turn this on. If I mouse over the Cinderweb egg, it now says will be destroyed by vendor, and the rule is destroy collected pets. Now, how does destroy work? You may have noticed over here that the destroy button is now active and has a count on it and shows the item. So back in Shadowlands, this add-on used to be able to automatically delete and destroy items that are in the destroy list because the API allowed it. At the beginning of, I believe, Dragonflight, Blizzard changed this functionality and they require an input for every destroy. I do know ways to work around this. However, we have decided not to work around what Blizzard intends here. I expect that they don't want people to mindlessly destroy items or rapidly destroy items or destroy your entire inventory without user interaction. In order to be a good WoW add-on citizen, we are going to adhere with what we believe is Blizzard's intent, and so we will not destroy any items without an explicit action from the player, one at a time. So if I click this button, it will destroy the egg. What we do, however, do with Vendor's Destroy is we do get rid of the confirmation dialog. So normally the annoyance with getting rid of items like this is that you can't vendor them, and if you go to destroy them, you have to type in the confirmation delete in the box before you can delete them. And if you have 5 or 6 of these items in your inventory, it gets very annoying very quickly. This is especially true with holiday items and some of the junk you'll get there that is just the only way to get rid of it is to destroy it, and you've got to confirm it every time. It's very annoying. So with Vendor, you can do that with just click destroy, it is gone. You can also bind a hotkey to destroy, such as the delete key is what I did. So that'll work anywhere. You don't have to be at a vendor. We just put this here as a convenience. So when you're selling, if you want to get rid of anything that is destroyable, it will also be destroyed there. Now there's also some things in here that it didn't get rid of that you might want to keep. You might want to keep things like these tokens for your class. If once you've collected all the token appearances, or maybe you don't care to collect them, you just want them out of your bags, you can create rules to sell those or destroy those if they're not sellable the same way. I actually recommend putting a lot of these things as destroy rules, because if anything matches a destroy rule, or it'll be sold if we try to sell it. So for example, if I make a new destroy rule for Crown of the Fiery Protector, let's see, what is this thing? So we have this kind of item. It is miscellaneous junk. It has an on-use ability, but it is not usable by the character. So these are tokens that my character cannot use that has an on-use ability that is junk. Well, the best ways to make rules like this, unusable tokens. So I'll call this an unusable token. So first what we want is an item that is not equipment. It's a good one to check just to make sure we're not qualifying gear. We want something actually I can show you another feature. If you click on this, it'll actually put the property in there for you. And I believe, yeah, left click alt left click gives you the negation, so you can do alt left click for not as equipment. And we want is usable to be false. And what else do we want for this guy? We want to specify type ID. Type ID equals 15. So we can also match that here. It's better to use the type IDs instead of the string. It's just a little more efficient. So you can do alt right, what is it? Left click for type ID equals 15. Nice. And we want subtype to be 0. And we want the expansion pack ID is an interesting one. If it's the current expansion, it'll be War Within. A lot of things are also considered 0 for Classic. So if I wanted to make sure I'm not destroying any tokens from the War Within, we can do expansion pack ID is less than 10. So War Within tokens will show up as expansion ID 10 and not be included in this. So now we have a rule that not equipment, not usable, it's this type and subtype, and it's a impaction ID, and it's not usable. And just to add an extra, we can also do and has usability, because these tokens can be used. So I believe that is a correct rule for finding these. We'll go to matches, and there they are. Goblin or gauntlets of the fiery protector, the crown, the leggings, the chest of the corrupted vanquisher. I will save this rule. I will turn on this rule. Oh, whoops. So you gotta be careful. I made this, and what did I call it? Unusable tokens. Here it is. I made this, and it defaulted to keep rule. Again, good safety feature, but if you don't see the rule where you expect it to be, check the type. So now it is in the destroy list. Usable tokens here. You can see I made items or rules previously for things like Halloween wands, where we looked at the tooltip contains Halloween wand and it's a certain type. You can use this to get rid of a lot of annoying junk from Blizzard. Anyway, here's the rule. It's matching the things we expect it to match. So we will turn it on, unusable tokens. And now you can see the destroy shows up in the destroy list here. However, if I have auto sell on, I go back to the merchant, you can see we'll actually try to sell it, even though it is a destroy. I recommend doing this simply because you can press the delete key to get rid of them if you just want to free up space when they're not worth very much gold. 5 gold is not really worth it. So if you put some of the items like this that are really low value on your destroy list, then you can mash your delete key to get rid of them, or your keybind just to get rid of them just like that without having to necessarily go to a merchant. So that can be useful if you're deep inside a dungeon, you don't have access to a merchant, you want to get rid of this stuff. You can also see that it did not remove the items that match my class because my class can use them. If we go back and look at the rule, unusable tokens, the key part is not usable. These can be used by my character, therefore they do not match. So if you want to stick to just the things that your class has, great. I understand these are warbound, they can be traded to other characters if you want, but this is just for demonstration purposes. Okay, so now let's tour the vendor settings so we can understand what all is going on here. So in the main vendor window, we have the rules, keep rules, sell list, destroy rules, and then we have lists, keep, sell, destroy lists, and then your custom lists. These aren't necessarily keep or destroy or sell. It depends on how you reference them in a rule. So you could use them for anything. It's just a collection of items that you can assign a rule to check. On the right side, we have the non-rule or list evaluation tabs for vendor settings. First one's help. This is the information about the project, like the website on CurseForge. We also have a Discord if you wish to get some more information or tell us about a bug, the version, and then patch notes. We have the audit tab over here. As we see, the audit tab has a list of everything vendor has done for the last 30 days. List of all the things vendor has done for you. Also keeps track of how much gold it's sold if you're curious. Over in the settings, the default we have quick settings, which are just a quick setup vendor with the default settings. You can just click these buttons here. Shows the mini map, the merchant buttons. If you don't want the mini map icon, you can just turn it off here. If you don't want the merchant buttons, you can turn them off. Whether you want the auto repair functionality on or off. The auto sell is a little bit different. This one enables two settings. Both the auto sell and the also enables the 12 item limit. So if you just want to quickly use vendor safely, these are the options. If you want to get into more details, we still have some of the same options, mini maps. This one is a new feature, the mini-map item dialog. This is if you're really curious about an item and you want to see the properties, you can turn on that setting and drag the item onto the vendor icon, and you'll get just a little property window about what we've identified about the item. For selling, you have the auto sell and then the sell limit. If you turn off the sell limit, the quick setting will go to off because this requires both of them to be on. That's fine, you don't have to have that on. As long as this one is on, you're good. We have the auto repair, whether you want to use guild bank, and then tooltips. So turning on the tooltips will tell you the rule evaluation vendor. If you don't want the tooltip, you can turn off the tooltip. Won't show up. And then if you want the extra rule information, that will also appear there where it's keep items in the keep list. So if you don't care about that, you can turn those off. Chat output. This was a feature we added pretty recently. A lot of people didn't like the fact that vendor was spewing into their chat like down here. That's great. You can turn it off if you want. If you don't want to show vendor here, you have all of your tabs known to the game at the time. You can turn off, destroy messages, merchant messages, repair messages, all the other stuff. We also have a setting here for hidden rules. If you go into the rules list and you hide a rule like this one, you can hide the rule. It disappears from the list. It will also be disabled if it was enabled. But if you just want to keep your rule list clean, or you want to hide some of the default rules that you never use, you can go into and hide it, and if you ever want to get it back, it shows up in this list of hidden rules. So if I want to unhide the Halloween ones, I click here, go back to destroy, there's Halloween ones again. So the hidden rules section is just for ways to get back rules that you don't want to see in the main list. And finally, we have some beta features. We have chat output, which is the chat output here. This is really not much of a beta feature anymore. But if you turn this off, the option to decide where you put the chat output goes away. Recommend keeping that on. The beta feature also for Addy bags. If you have Addy bags, we have integration with Addy bags that will create categories for the items vendor is going to sell or destroy. We have a similar integration with Arc inventory, and we have a few other integrations with other add-ons, such as TSM. We have a new set of functions for TSM and rules that you can create that use the TSM data about items. You can't turn on Addy bags. I don't have Addy bags on, therefore that option doesn't do anything. So those are all the settings. Taking a tour of the profiles. Creating new profile is pretty easy. You can just go down here, you type in your name, new profile, and there it is, new profile. When you create the profile, it doesn't set to use that profile until you actually go and click the set. And then if you go to that profile, you see that it does not have my keep list or sell list as the same, and because it's a new rule, all the keep list and destroy list and sell list is empty. So that's one of the reasons I recommend having this rule for precious. You can just turn that on in your keep list, and now your stuff is once again protected, even across profiles. Very easy. Go back to that. You can delete profiles, just get rid of it like that. You can also copy profiles. I want to make a duplicate of this exact same profile. You select the profile you want, you type a new name, um, like and copy. And this profile will be the exact same as the one that I just was on. Go back and I can see that the lists have the same items that I had added to it, and the same rules are already enabled. And that's profiles. I recommend having things like leveling profile when you don't necessarily want to get rid of items based on item level. You might care more about whether it's an upgrade for your character or not. There's profile you can make to just clean your bag, just get rid of everything that you don't care about. You can have another one just for your typical end game characters, main. That's how I've been using them. And lastly, we have a feature to import a rule. So one of the things you can do here is you can go to a rule, like equipment sets. I guess to be a custom rule, like speed is my rule I like that I created. Has stat speed. These are items that literally have the speed attribute added to them, and I always want to keep those items to make speed sets and whatnot. So if I want to export that rule, I can right click on the rule, you go down to export, and you have this string here. You copy the string, and then you can import that rule from somewhere else, from someone else if you want. And if you have a valid rule, it will validate the string and says import rule has speed imported. You're importing a rule shared by myself. Are you sure you want to continue? Say yes. And now I have the imported speed rule, and you can see that there's now a duplicate imported as the imported text on the end of it, just so you know that's the one that was imported. So there you go. All right. Well, thank you for your interest in Vendor. Thanks for sitting through the video. And if you have any feedback, please leave it in the comments or join the Discord and give bug reports and other suggestions you may have. The link is in the add-ons about page or help page. Right here you can see the Discord project. The Discord is probably one of the best ways. You can see me in there and ping me directly if you have questions that are urgent about the add-on. I did want to have a final note about maintenance of this add-on. I use this add-on every day and actively maintain it very well for retail. I may not update it every content patch unless Blizzard breaks something. Major updates typically come between expansions when the content is completely over. Everyone's just like farming transmogs and there's not much else to do while you're waiting for the next expansion to drop. There's also a lot of API changes typically between expansions, so I have to spend a fair bit of time on PTR or beta testing and updating the add-on to work. So that is typically where you'll see significant changes to the add-on, new features and that sort of thing be added during an expansion. Between patches, I'll change it as little as possible so it doesn't mess up anything. I'll only typically change things if they break or Blizzard breaks them. Or significant bugs. If you find a really significant bug, I will fix it. However, I do not play Classic, so Classic may have delays. We still support Classic. Classic may have delays when it gets updated or problems between releases, like if Classic has an update and they change the API and it breaks, I may not know about it. I do try to make sure it works for every Classic release as it does with the latest one with MOP. If you have any serious Classic problems, please go to the Discord and report those there, and feel free to ping me or message me about it if I don't respond in a timely manner for you. I'm not ignoring people with this. I'm trying not to ignore Classic, but it's just not something I typically play, so chances are I probably won't know about any problems there. Anyway, thanks for your interest in the add-on, and have a wonderful day.